ready to tackle that feeling of never having enough time.
I think we all are.
Today's deep dive is all about mastering your time, and our guide is Master Your Time by Thibaut Meurisse.
Excellent choice. A very practical book. Great for getting things done.
Absolutely. Now, we're actually using a YouTube summary of the book for this deep dive.
Yeah, those summaries can be surprisingly helpful. They distill things down to the essentials.
Exactly. They help us quickly grasp the key ideas, those golden nuggets of wisdom.
And who doesn't love a good shortcut, right?
Right. So let's jump right in. One of the first things that struck me was the book's definition of productivity. It's not just about crushing your to-do list, is it?
Definitely not. It goes much deeper than that.
Okay, so what is it really about then?
It's about aligning your tasks with what truly matters to you on a personal level.
So it's about more than just work.
Absolutely. It includes your relationships, your hobbies, all the things that make up a fulfilling life. It's about designing a life you don't need to escape from.
I love that. Designing a life you don't need to escape from. That's a really powerful way to think about it.
It's about being the architect of your time, not just the construction worker. You get to decide what you build.
Okay, I'm on board with being the architect, but where do we even begin? I was intrigued by this whole energy cycle concept in the book. Have you heard of that?
Oh, absolutely. It's a game changer. So imagine this. Your energy levels fluctuate throughout the day, kind of like a wave.
Okay, so not like a straight line, more like ups and downs.
Exactly. You're not designed to be on 24/7. We all have those peaks and valleys in our energy.
So trying to power through when your brain is already checked out is probably counterproductive, right?
Totally. You're much better off working with your natural energy rhythms.
So how do we do that?
It's about identifying your peak productivity times. You know, those golden hours when you're most alert, most focused.
I think I know when mine are, but I probably don't leverage them enough.
That's the key. Schedule your most demanding tasks during those peak times. It's like surfing the wave instead of fighting the current.
That's a great analogy. Ride those waves of energy. But what about when the wave crashes? We all hit those slumps, right? What should we do then?
That's a perfect time for those less demanding tasks. Things like checking email, doing paperwork, or other tasks that don't require you to be firing on all cylinders.
Makes sense. Don't waste the peak mental energy on things that don't need it.
Exactly. Work with your natural rhythms, not against them.
Speaking of rhythms, let's talk about procrastination. I have to admit, sometimes even talking about productivity makes me want to go reorganize my sock drawer.
You and me both. It's like our brain's way of rebelling.
It really is.
Yeah.
But what's the solution? How do we actually beat procrastination?
Well, think about a time when you successfully beat procrastination. Chances are one of 4 things happened.
Okay, I like where this is going. Hit me with those procrastination busting secrets.
You got it. We procrastinate because of a lack of clarity, a misunderstanding of motivation, fear of failure, or feeling completely overwhelmed.
Oh man, that's like a greatest hits of my own personal struggles right there. Let's break those down, starting with clarity. What do you mean by lack of clarity, and how do we fix it?
So if you don't even know what you need to do or why it matters, it's no wonder you avoid it, right?
That's so true. I've definitely been guilty of that.
The key is to get really specific. This source encourages a get real approach.
Get real with my to-do list. I could do that.
Exactly. Instead of writing down, write a report, break it down further, outline the report, research key data, draft the introduction, and so on.
Wow, that already feels less daunting just hearing you say it that way.
Right. And then ask yourself why each step is important, not just to your boss or your clients, but to you personally.
I love that. It's about connecting the task to your own goals and values.
Exactly. That way, it's not just a chore on a list. It's a choice with real consequences, both positive and negative.
That's a game changer. Okay, what about motivation? I'm definitely guilty of waiting for that magical burst of inspiration, which, let's face it, rarely comes.
The source totally debunks that myth. It emphasizes that motivation often follows action, not the other way around.
So don't wait for the motivation fairy to strike. Just start.
Exactly. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, that initial momentum can snowball into something much bigger.
It's about tricking your brain into wanting to do more.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got to remember that one. What about fear of failure? That one really gets me.
That's a big one, especially for us recovering perfectionists.
Oh, tell me about it.
This source has a great reminder. Done is better than perfect.
Oh, I need to get that printed on a t-shirt.
Right. The source reminds us that mistakes are inevitable. We're going to make them, and that's okay.
It's more about the process and the outcome, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, now let's tackle that overwhelmed feeling.
Yes, please. Sometimes my to-do list feels like it has its own to-do list.
I feel that. It's like to-do list inception. Exactly. So what can we do about it?
The source recommends a good old-fashioned brain dump. Just get everything out of your head and onto paper. Don't censor yourself, just write it all down.
So even if it's something small, like pick up dry cleaning, it goes on the list.
Absolutely. Everything goes on the list. And then, here's the key. Prioritize.
Prioritize. So how do you decide what comes first?
Ask yourself, what absolutely must get done today, what can wait, and what can be delegated.
Oh, delegation. There's a word I need to get more comfortable with. But I like this idea of prioritizing. It's about bringing order to the chaos.
Exactly. It ties back into that clarity piece we were talking about. Procrastination loves chaos. By creating order, even if it's just on paper, we regain a sense of control.
And that sense of control is what leads to feeling less overwhelmed.
Right. Feeling overwhelmed often comes from feeling like things are spiraling out of control. But when we have a plan, even a loose one, it helps us feel more grounded. And this leads us to a fascinating concept from the source, time as a mental model.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this time as a mental model idea.
It's like this, we can get really caught up in thinking about the past or the future.
Oh, tell me about it.
And when we do that, it can steal our focus from the present moment.
It's so true. It's like shoulda, woulda, coulda about the past, or what if about the future.
Exactly. Ever find yourself replaying that awkward conversation from last week or stressing about a deadline that's months away?
All the time. It drives me crazy. It's like my brain is a time traveler, but not in a fun way.
Yes. The source calls this getting stuck in a time warp, and it's a productivity killer.
So how do we escape the time warp?
It's not that we should ignore the past or future completely.
Right, we can learn from the past, and we do need to plan for the future.
Exactly. But the key is to use the past and future constructively without letting them consume our present moment.
So learn from our mistakes, but don't dwell on them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And plan for the future without getting caught in anxiety spirals.
Oh man, that's the hard part. Any tips for not spiraling?
It takes practice, for sure. But this source reminds us that the present moment is where the real power lies.
Because the actions we take today are what actually move us forward.
Precisely. Not the worries about yesterday or the anxieties about tomorrow.
Okay, that's a good reminder. It's like that saying, worrying is like paying interest on a debt you may never owe.
I love that. And the source puts it this way. Consider this day as your micro life, which helps build your macro life.
Ooh, I like that. Each day is like a building block.
Exactly. So if you spend all day scrolling through social media, you're probably not building the Eiffel Tower of your dreams, right?
Definitely not. More like building a leaning tower of procrastination. Okay, I need to shift my thinking here. So how do we make the most of those building blocks? How do we get more done in the time we have?
That's where this idea of time multiplication comes in.
Time multiplication. Okay, that sounds way more appealing than my current strategy of wishing for more hours in the day. So how do we actually multiply our time? Give me the secrets.
One of the biggest ones from the source is this: seek help strategically.
Wait, you're telling me the key to getting more done is to ask for help?
It can be a big part of it. We often try to do everything ourselves.
Oh, I am the queen of that. I like to be in control.
I get it. But think about it. Are you truly the best person to handle every single task on your list?
Probably not. There are definitely some things I'm not great at, and I end up spending way too much time on them.
Exactly. Or maybe you could get better results by delegating to someone with more expertise in a particular area.
Okay, so instead of being a martyr to my to-do list, I should embrace the power of delegation. It's about working smarter, not harder, right?
You got it.
I'm starting to see the light. So
Okay.
besides delegation, what are some other time multiplication gems did the source offer?
Another big one is adopting a mastery mindset.
A mastery mindset. Sounds intriguing, but what does that actually mean?
It's about always looking for ways to work smarter, not just harder. And that means constantly seeking improvement.
I like that. Always be improving. So how do we actually cultivate this so-called mastery mindset?
This source breaks it down into three main parts: mastering repetition, mastering the fundamentals, and embracing lifelong learning.
Okay, I'm taking notes. Let's start with mastering repetition. What does that mean in a practical sense?
Think about any skill you've really mastered in your life. Playing an instrument, speaking a language, even just cooking a perfect omelet. It all comes down to consistent, focused repetition.
It's true. Practice does make perfect, or at least it makes progress. but sometimes I feel like I'm just going through the motions, not really improving all that much.
That's where mastering the fundamentals comes in. It's not just about doing something over and over again. It's about understanding the underlying principles of what you're doing.
So it's like the difference between following a recipe and understanding the science of baking.
Exactly. Knowing why ingredients interact a certain way allows you to adapt, get creative, and troubleshoot when things go wrong.
Okay, that makes sense. Master the fundamentals, and then you can really start to experiment and innovate. What about that third element, lifelong learning? How does that tie into a mastery mindset?
Well, the world is changing faster than ever, right? So we've got to keep our skills sharp.
I feel that. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow.
Exactly. By embracing a mindset of curiosity and continuous learning, we stay adaptable and ahead of the curve.
And who doesn't want to be ahead of the curve? Okay, so we've got to master repetition, master the fundamentals, and never stop learning. This is great stuff. What else does the source recommend for maximizing our time?
They also talk about the 80-20 principle, which you've probably heard of.
I have, but I'll admit I'm a little fuzzy on the details. Can you refresh my memory?
It's also called the Pareto principle, and it states that roughly 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts.
So it's about identifying those high-impact activities and really focusing our energy there.
You got it.
Easier said than done, right? It feels like everything on my to-do list is important. How do you decide what that 20% is?
It does take some practice to get good at identifying those high-impact activities. A good place to start is by looking at your to-do list and asking yourself, which 20% of these tasks will have the biggest impact on my overall goals?
That's a great tip. Okay, so if we could just figure out how to focus our energy on that magical 20%, we'll see massive results, right?
It can be a game changer, for sure. It really can. But even with the best strategies and tools, without focus, we're still just spinning our wheels, right?
So true. It's not just about the quantity of time, it's about the quality of attention we bring to it.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of flow state comes in. Have you heard of that?
I have. It's that feeling of being totally immersed in a task where time just seems to disappear.
You got it. Like you're in the zone, firing on all cylinders.
Exactly. But how do we access that magical state on demand? It feels kind of elusive, like it's hard to control.
Well, the source emphasizes the importance of routines. Our brains crave structure. They thrive on predictable patterns.
Okay, so instead of constantly battling for focus, we can set ourselves up for success with a consistent routine. I like where this is going.
Right. Think of it like creating triggers that tell your brain it's focus time.
I could use a few of those triggers in my life.
Yeah.
What are some examples?
It could be a specific time of day that you dedicate to focused work. Maybe it's first thing in the morning, or maybe you're a night owl and it's after everyone else has gone to bed. Or it could be a dedicated workspace, free from distractions, where you only go to do focused work.
Oh, I love that. A designated space just for focused work. No Netflix allowed.
Exactly. You can even create a pre-work ritual, like having a cup of tea or listening to a certain playlist, to signal to your brain that it's time to buckle down.
Those are great tips. I can already picture my ideal focus routine. But even with the best intentions, distractions are everywhere. My phone is like a magnet for my attention.
Oh, I hear that. It's like those notifications are designed to be addictive.
They really are. So how do we fight back?
Digital boundaries are key. Turn off those non-essential notifications, silence your phone, and close those tempting tabs.
It's like building a fortress of focus. Out of sight, out of mind.
Right, exactly. And here's another thing to consider. Sometimes we need to set boundaries with the people around us, too.
Oh, 100%. Sometimes you just need that do not disturb sign on your brain.
Right. Have those conversations with your family, your roommates, your coworkers. Explain that you need some uninterrupted time to do your best work.
So important. And you know what else? Sometimes I think we forget to just be bored.
Wait, what? Be bored?
Yeah. Hear me out. Our brains are so used to constant stimulation these days that we've forgotten how to just be no phone, no screens, no distractions. And I think that actually makes it harder to focus when we need to.
That's so interesting. You're saying that embracing a little boredom can actually strengthen our focus muscles.
Exactly. It's like a digital detox for your brain.
I love that. We need to schedule in some boredom intentionally.
Exactly. And you know what else the source recommends? Taking breaks.
Breaks! I thought we were trying to be more productive.
Right, but hear me out. Think about it like this. Trying to focus for hours on end is like running a marathon without stopping. You might make it to the finish line, but you'll be completely spent.
That's a great analogy. It's about sustainable productivity, not just sprinting until we burn out.
Exactly. Those regular breaks, even if they're just for a few minutes, give your mind a chance to rest and recharge.
And when you come back to your work, you're more likely to be focused and productive.
This deep dive has been amazing. We covered so much ground today. We talked about aligning our actions with our values, understanding that motivation often follows action. We explored practical ways to conquer procrastination, multiply our time, and even unlock those elusive flow states.
It's all about taking control of our time and building a life that we're excited to wake up to each day.
So, to our listeners, we ask, what resonated with you today? What one small step can you take today to reclaim your time and design a life you don't need a vacation from?
We can't wait to hear what you do.
That's it for this deep dive. We'll be back next time with another episode exploring the secrets to a more productive and fulfilling life. Until then, stay curious and make every moment count.